Next up, we have our second Spark Talk of the day, starring guests, alumni panelists Martavius and Rezilience. This live recording is brought to you by the host of the Duke Career Center podcast, What's Career Got to Do With It?
Hello and welcome to the What's Career Got to Do With It podcast, live for the first time. Thank you for joining us today. There you go. We hope to provide a space for honest conversation and information that encourages the listener to take the next steps in their career journey. Wherever you are at in this process, we hope this episode will meet you with affirmation, guidance, and maybe some laughs along the way.
Just a few.
Just a few, hopefully. Maybe more, I don't know. On today's episode, I am joined by some very special guests. First, my name is Rudy. I'm not as special of a guest, but next to me, I have Angela Bonner, our Associate Director of Career Readiness. I have Martavius Parrish, class of 2014. And I have Rezilience Williamson, class of 2021.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have y'all here. Welcome back.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So let's just go ahead and get this thing started. Whoever wants to jump in, whoever wants to go first, it's your world. So tell us a little bit about your journey and what you've been doing since you left Duke.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Rezilience Williamson, and I kind of left Duke at the big, rough part of the pandemic. It's still kind of rough. But I'm class of 2021, and I got my bachelor's in culture anthropology, which is the study of living culture. And since I graduated, I've been trying to figure out how to live off of that degree. And it helps me because in my day-to-day life, I'm a teacher. I've worked in daycares. I've worked in first grade. I've worked in middle school. So I'm really trying to get people to understand theme and all the messages and the morals of story by relating it to TikTok. So I've been trying to do that these days.
Wait, TikTok's not true?
You said what?
TikTok's not true?
Can be. It depends on your interpretation.
Hi, my name is Martavius Parrish. I graduated class of 2014, pronouns he, him, his. I graduated from Duke with a degree in neuroscience with a minor in theater. My junior year, I completely decided to dump pre-med and do performance instead. So after I graduated from here, I ended up going to NYU for vocal performance at their Steinhardt School. That was a 2-year program, finished that, and then worked as an actor in New York City for a couple of years. And then right before the pandemic, I decided to take a dive into directing. And then we had a pandemic. And then after, I kind of continued that journey, and that led to me ultimately directing, helping to assistant direct a production of Into the Woods that had 3 different iterations. First at New York City Center, starring Neil Patrick Harris, Sarah Bareilles, and a bunch of fancy other people. And then transferred to Broadway, where it starred Sarah Bareilles, Philippa Sue from Hamilton, Brian Darcy James, who's been on film and TV, Gavin Creel, Joshua Henry, a whole laundry list of like Broadway people. And then I just finished the 6-month limited engagement national tour with Stephanie J. Block, Tony Award winner, Montego Glover, also Tony Award winner. And that wrapped up less than a month ago. So now I'm here.
Wow.
Ooh, busy. And I thought working in higher education may be busy. It does not compared to this. It is a lot. So I want you to go back in time. I want you to think about long ago, because what I've realized is once I got in my 30s, everything seemed long ago. But it's not. It's there. For me, my sophomore year was a while ago. But for you, I want you to think, if you were there today, what would you tell yourself that you wish you would have known?
Well, my sophomore year, I was really still committed to the pre-med track. I kind of dropped the chem and math double major, but I was like, I'm going to major in math, I'm going to be pre-med and get my minor in education. So I think if I could go back, I would definitely tell myself to breathe, to breathe a little bit more and try to kind of stretch myself out a little bit more. I think that year I was really trying to figure out all the free food events. So I feel like I was going to try to go to places where I could eat and also cultivate new interest. A lot of my times I was just going to STEM events to get the study groups and the free food, but I think I would have gone back to some of the humanities events and trying to like have a talk and learn new ideas as well as getting some free food from a good restaurant.
What was the spot? Where'd you go?
I think a lot of my events kind of were in either the Wellness Center or Penn Pavilion, and they always kind of had some alpaca or those like fancy donuts.
Yeah.
So I was always there. But I think that I wish I took more time to kind of stretch out beyond Friends, Family, Science and the SAGE groups. I think I would have leaned in a little bit more.
For me, sophomore year, freshman year was a ride. I am first generation traditional four-year college student, and going from a small town in South Georgia to Duke University was the biggest leap in terms of just like introduction to people. A lot of the things that Kara actually touched on in terms of like just like not knowing how to navigate a space like this. And so sophomore year was really me coming in and trying to figure out how to do things better than what I had managed to do freshman year. A lot of the activities and things that I was involved in, how to better balance those with classes, jumping into classes that I actually enjoyed, because I came in chemistry major and took my first chem class and was like, absolutely not. And so it was a lot about kind of reframing and saying, okay, now that we know the landscape, now that we know all of the things that there are to do, what do I actually kind of want to spend my time in, and where do I kind of want to kind of grow and breathe a little bit more.
That was very good responses. I enjoyed that, but I want you to think a little bit more for me now. Take yourself all the way back to your time at Duke. For both of you, what top thing would you do very differently, and what thing would you never change at all? Take a moment, think about it. I can't sing, but I can provide you a background.
Do you mind if I jump in? Great. One thing that I think I did really well, again, bouncing off of this, coming from like a very small town Georgia environment, when I came to Duke, and specifically this could have been at any college, but I was very intent on deconstructing all the things I was told to be, and very interested in reconstructing all the things I actually wanted to be. So both academically and then also personally, really breaking apart, like my family is incredibly, we grew up incredibly religious, and like breaking down all the pieces of what religion had taught me and what like my upbringing had taught me, and really asking myself like, how much of this do I actually subscribe to and actually believe in versus things that I've been told that I should believe in and kind of have blindly taken on. And so really taking the time, because you're immersed in an environment with so many different people and so many different kind of walks of life, to get to know perspectives and really understand perspectives that you may not have necessarily had from wherever you came from, was something that I did really well, because I think I walked out of Duke a very different person than I did coming in, and that has nothing to do with my massive change of career. It really was also about the people that I had met and really making time and space for perspectives that I didn't have access to from where I came from. Something that I would have done, a really, really big one was Duke Engage. Like, I just completely missed that boat. And I think had I known more about that program and what that program was set up to do, that's something that I wouldn't have missed. And so I highly suggest, if you have not already looked into it, to look into Duke Engage and get yourself into a program ASAP.
Thank you for that. I think kind of going off of that, I think I also came into college first gen. I wasn't too far away. I came from Mebane. You know, you might not have heard of it. It's called Mebane. To some people, there are definitely the Tanger outlets. We finally got a Chick-fil-A after I left town. And we got a cookout, so go ahead, Mebane. But I came here first gen. I was a Rubenstein scholar, and I think I was really ready to be a superhero for my family. I was going to collect degrees. I was going to collect basically my goal was to get 3 careers for the price of one, because they were going to give me a scholarship, they were going to give me a laptop, they were going to pay for my summer, so I was going to be a doctor, I was going to be a teacher, I was going to be a chemist. I wanted to do everything when I came in freshman year, and I did not realize that midterms were not the middle of the year. So I was kind of disheartened after my first midterm, and I was like, wait a minute, there's 2 more midterms, and there's a final, so what did I just take? A breath. And I think that I was really, really fighting to fit all of those 3 careers in semester after semester, but I did manage to do a Duke Engage my freshman year. I went to New York, and I was like, I really want to do this again, but I'm trying to finish this math and this pre-med and this education, and I think that I missed so many of the opportunities to go abroad. Like, I was one of the very few people in my scholarship program that did not travel on the Duke dime, and I think that I was going to wait till my junior year, and then there was a pandemic. I was going to wait for my senior year, and then I was remote. I was living off campus, and then I graduated. And I kind of wish I could go back and do some of the Duke Abroad programs. There was a rare chance where I was going to go. There was a Spanish class offered during the summer that was going to give us a chance to spend 1 week in Mexico with the sister school that was also learning. And I was going to go, but I was like, wait a minute, I need to finish this math major. And I was going to do it before my sophomore year. And let's just say I didn't get the math major, and I didn't get to go to Mexico. So I wish I could go back and kind of just do an abroad experience at least one time on the Duke dime. Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
I like that, for one time on a Duke dime. We need to put that on a
Shirts.
T-shirt. Meg, you got us? Okay.
Crocs,
thanks.
Greg? No Crocs? All right.
A water bottle, Greg? Okay.
I want to touch on something, Martavius. You mentioned this deconstruction process and then that rebuilding process. I think it's a natural thing that happens when you enter a place with new ideas, a new world, with all this opportunity, and yet you're challenged with new questions, and you're having to answer them, and you're having to come up with your version of the response, which is important to have your version of the response, your definitions, the things that you determine on your own, but that takes people. It takes people that surround you, that help to build you up. And it could be a seemingly meaningless encounter. It could be someone that you spent every single day with. But I'm curious, who are those people that existed during your time that helped to lift you up, to help surround you and build you up with advice, with wisdom, that sort of thing?
I mean, I do think it really does come from everywhere. Like, it came from my peers, it came from my professors, it came from parents who were also learning. I was the oldest child, so having a first-time college student and like having to navigate that situation in this process of you becoming a full adult, like there were realizations that they would have, that they would verbalize, that I go, you're right, and I've never realized that, and you've never realized that. So I think it really comes from everywhere. My friends and I all joke, we all came into Duke University straight and left it queer. And so we were all like on that process together, discovering what queerness was and how to engage with that, and all like dealing with relationships for the first time and a bunch of things. And so that was a big deal of learning from them. With my professors, specifically my theater professors, Jeff Storer, big shout out to you wherever you are right now. They taught me a lot about the artistry aspect of it, and took a lot of gambles and would pull me aside and have these moments of like, I really think you have something here to work with. And I go, thanks, I'm going to my cognitive neuroscience lab. And so I have them to thank for that. I have my advisors to thank for making it easy for me to transition. Karen Murphy, also, I don't know if you're still here or wherever she is, but she was my advisor who worked in the neuroscience department. And the day that I was like, I think I'm actually gonna do the art, she said, great. Here's a pamphlet for NYU, and like helped me like actually make that transition. She wasn't just kind of sold to me like belonging to her department. And so I think it kind of comes from a bunch of different places, and you should just be open to wherever that conversation, wherever that kind of guiding word or idea comes from.
I think for me, I was like the oldest sibling. I was the nanny, I was the cook, I was the homework help, I was the potty trainer extraordinaire before I came into college, and I think it was my first time being away from that. And I think freshman year was kind of a blur. I didn't really know how to ask for help except for the stage groups, and I wasn't really able to fully go into those. And I think that my sophomore year was really the year I actually learned how to ask for help. And I think that once I figured out how to do it, I was really meeting some people that I call them my first responders. They're the first people that kind of responded to my need, and they identified needs that I didn't even know myself that I had them. Like, I was kind of struggling, and I thought the struggle was just part of life. And I had a hard time like shaking it. Like, my family, we weren't the type of people to go to the hospital if we weren't bleeding, or if we did want to ask for help, it was usually prayer or at a church. But I was able to find some people at the ARC that really helped me figure out what time management was, what time did I have to manage, and they really helped me get a temporary, I can't remember what it's called now, but I was really struggling with my STEM classes, and I really didn't know how it was supposed to work. Like, I had some classes where you just had to memorize formulas. I had some classes where you had to actually know how to use this formula, but I didn't even know what the formula was, where it came from, who made it, why is it here, what is it for? But they really helped me go through the process of getting a temporary learning accommodation where I could get someone that was a note taker, so that when I'm in class, I could really just listen and look for the examples, and I'd have somebody that was taking notes and getting paid to take those notes that never met me, so shout out to whoever that was. But it really helped me kind of tune in and listen. And they also helped me get referred to like a specialist off campus to actually get evaluated and get some type of learning support long term. And I think that when I was in high school, it was just so easy. In freshman year, I was kind of struggling about life. But I think sophomore year, I really wanted to step in and figure out if this is the major I wanted to declare or not. But they gave me a good tool to use. And I think that around that time, it was a different place, and it was hard to feel safe. So I found support at the Women's Center. They helped me figure out what my boundaries were and kind of how to get my own justice and how to feel safe with the people around me, not just to sit back and watch harm happen, but actually how to stand up and be an active bystander, and also how to ask for help before and after like something happens. And I think I kind of went around the world, but I think that Duke Reach was also my best friend. I was always like, hey, I need food. How do I get food? How can I get a gift card? I heard y'all had a family event this weekend. Are there any leftovers? Where can I get groceries? And I think at some point, even when I was kind of figuring out what to do, they had grocery support like for grad students, but they kind of helped me get access to that so that I could have a buffer to kind of keep living, and going to class.
Good stuff. And I think at the end of the day, it's just ask for help. It's okay. You have tons of resources on this campus, and it's already paid for, so you might as well take advantage of those resources that are available to you. I hear my snaps, thanks. So thinking about the space that we're here in Duke, and you're talking about, I was pre-med, and I wanted to do this. I wanted to get as much as I could for this one price, and we're in a space of always forward thinking. Could you share with these students just a little bit about learning how to live in the present? And you kind of talked about that a little bit, resilience, but learning how to live in the present time, and also how to keep yourself grounded to keep from becoming overwhelmed in this whole process.
I can go first. I think that, do you want this perspective of us as a sophomore or us as after we've gotten the wisdom?
As a sophomore.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, y'all. I think when I was a sophomore, I think my initial mindset was my resume is full, so why do I feel empty? And I think I was really trying to figure out why. And I think a lot of that is because I was going after the careers that I thought could get me money after I graduated, but it was going to take 2 more years. So I was trying to figure out what can help me find happiness today. What can I do today to kind of smile and find joy? And joy was a rare concept because I was pre-med and I was really struggling. But I don't think pre-med, I don't think happiness should be something that we put on layaway, or that we're trying to, I don't want my happiness to be in a bank account that I'm trying to collect it after I graduated. I really wanted to figure out, how can I do something today to make me happy, or to smile, or to get that good cry out just in time to go to Chem Lab. And I think that for me, A lot of it was poetry. A lot of it was figuring out what is something that really resonates with me, that's going to get me activated, and it's going to allow me to express myself. And I think for me, it was spoken word. There was a good group on campus that I was able to participate in, and they had different slams, they had different open mics, and just figuring out like if poetry is something or storytelling is something that sets me afire, I was really trying to like find that in every space, whether that was the Me Too monologues or it was open mics that were not necessarily off campus, but very, very adjacent. And I think that really helped me just find different things to enjoy, because there's always an event like most days of the week, and a lot of them gave out free food, and they also really invested in storytelling. And I think for some of my friends, it was faith-based organizations or different electives. Like I was even pre-med with 2 labs and 2 math classes and an honors, like a house course, and I was still taking a dance class because I wanted to find a place where I could be a not so elegant elephant and just be bouncing around and find fun. Like I kind of wanted to be a little embarrassing and kind of just work through that and just like, you know what, this is one thing I'm not gonna be good at today, and that's okay. It was my dance class was like twice a week, and I managed to take one my sophomore fall and spring, and I kind of kept taking it because I was like, well, I need a space where I can be awkward and like kind of grow and not look at formulas, and I think that was kind of what I found, something that I could pursue as like a hobby or an interest and wasn't really pressured to make a career out of it like tomorrow. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that. I was in a similar vein. I was in class and doing math and science all the time, and then every second spent outside of that was something else. It was theater, it was the pitchforks, it was like hoof and horn, something that was not like what I was doing in class. And that became a big kind of core of like joy as I'm going through like all of these other things and assessing whether I actually want to be in those spaces. So definitely like pouring yourself into something that is not what you're studying is incredibly, incredibly important. The other thing, I have a confession. I don't traditionally listen to podcasts, and this is definitely the first one that I'm on, but it's because I'm usually listening to music like 24/7. That's my own fault. But what I have done is like started rediving back into them, and I found this podcast called Even the Rich, and the first season that I listened to was on Jay-Z and Beyonce. Because I'm obsessed with Beyonce. These nails are from the Renaissance tour that I attended.
It's a great concert. It's a great concert.
And so I dived into this podcast, which basically talks about the becoming of each of those people. And like, as we all know, whether you personally like her or not, Beyonce is the queen of the world, right? And so if you look at where she is now, you're like, oh, she's perfect, she's flawless, she's blah, 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 she's all of this, she's done all of these incredible things. Listening to that podcast, what I learned was that there were so many failures that we either forget about or we like don't know about or like was swept under the rug. Like there's a lot, as many awards as she has, there's a laundry list of things that went wrong to match it, right? And so it was a big kind of moment to me to say, like, also a part of the process is accepting that it's not going to be perfect, right? We feel this need. Kara gave, again, so many amazing examples of this kind of influence of, like, everything's got to look perfect, and I got to be great, and I've got to look great, and I've got to have a social life, and I've got to be on top of my academics, and, like, I'm keeping it all together, and inside you're, like, really awful. The fact of the matter is everybody else is having that experience. We just don't openly talk about it. And so just realizing it and accepting that it's not always going to be perfect is a part of that process, and giving yourself grace to move through those moments where you maybe failed an exam or a relationship has gone awry or something just didn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to turn out, and accepting like that too is a part of the process. So what can I learn from that, right? I don't have to sit in that. I don't have to necessarily meditate on it, but what is the learning thing? And that's the thing that's going to propel me forward. That's the thing that's going to teach me the biggest lessons about what I have to do. I have to say, like, one of the number one questions that I get in regard to this neuroscience versus theater thing is, if you knew that you would wind up in theater, would you just have done that? Would you just have gone into that instead of going through neuroscience? And I always say, absolutely not. because my journey at Duke as a neuroscientist and working through that pre-med track and all of the rigor and the hard work that I had to learn and the failures that I had to overcome taught me everything that I needed to know going into the world of entertainment. And I went straight into grad school and watched a bunch of people who had not had those experiences and had not had that breaking process and had not had that moment to really redefine like who they were as people, and they were crumbling, right? So I was very grateful that I got to navigate that in a system that was separate from what I ultimately wound up doing, and it's all the lessons and shortcomings from what I did at Duke that prepared me and allowed me to do as well as I did in the arts after.
And then I wanted to just add, sorry,
Hop on.
but I appreciate your share. I think something else that I wanted to add, just more general, I think that like I didn't necessarily get more things to put on my resume, but I think that I really found out that how like happy or how much peace I can have like today, tomorrow, or the day after that is kind of the story that I'm telling myself about what I'm doing and why I'm doing. And I think that a lot of my struggle or unhappiness was I was really telling myself a story for other people. Like, I'm doing this so that my mama and my dad could get this thing, which I think is very true and very powerful. But while I'm also doing this work, whether that's pre-med or it's pursuing a different dream, I think that I'm also part of my story. And I think once I was able to find that, like, I'm not just being pre-med to pay off a house. I'm also being pre-med because I want to be able to help little black girls and children of color who are not really getting to go to the doctor until they're like 24 or 21 in college. I think that when I was able to remind myself that or find that, I was able to be more present with myself as well.
That's really good stuff. And a lot of the things that you have said so far have just been spot on with what we hope each one of you is taking away. We hope that you are taking this in and you are listening and being like, that's what I can do. That's how I can move forward. And I'll say the last thing that we do as a podcast every single week is we give that one little bit of advice. The thing that we hope you learn from this, that when the noise around you gets too loud, when the world seems like it's too much, when classes are all over the place, when friendships are up and down, when relationships are weird, when everything is too staticky, too weird, too noisy, and you can't seem to find that calm, what do you recommend? What do you say to the people in this room?
I would say I think that a shift in perspective may be nice. I think that when I came into my sophomore year, I was really looking for that happy ending, that once I declare the major, I'm going to miraculously be better at it. Once I move into my dorm on West Campus, I'm going to find all the friends. I'm going to have a whole like floor party. And I think that once I got there, I realized that this is still school. People are still people, and they're still people, and I'm going to have some growing pains. And I think that I shifted my perspective to finding, like, what is my happy beginning? And I think that as a sophomore, it was a new year, and I think that people didn't really switch up on me. It's just like we switched where we were living, and our access to each other also kind of changed. And so I think that figuring out, like, how can I find, like, where can my happiness start today? And hoping that that's not after midnight or it's not after class. Like, how can I start being happy as soon as I, like, walk out? If that's going to the bathroom, or that's drinking water, or that's checking my mini fridge, or making sure I don't snooze my third or fourth alarm, I think that's okay. And I think that once I was able to kind of move from there, it kind of helped me, like, recognize more successes. I think it is a big success to get out of bed and to wake up and to drink water and to brush your teeth and take a shower and to hopefully put on some fresher clothes. I think that mental health was a big thing that I didn't realize how much it was a struggle until I really got into my sophomore year. Freshman year was a blur, but sophomore year was like, dang, life is real. But I think finding that happy beginning to figure out, like, where can I begin to work on my happiness, not just this result, because the result is going to come, but happiness has to, like, be part of that journey.
I resonate with everything that you just said. That was basically my answer. I think the realization that, like, these 4 years really is the transition between you being someone else's person and you being your own person. And so the biggest thing that you can do for yourselves right now, and I think kind of the through line of all the conversations that we've had today, has been like really assessing like what is my happy, like what is my joy, right? Not what my parents' joy is or what my partner's joy is or what my friends think joy is, but actually like being really honest with yourself and assessing like what is the thing that is going to make me the most happy right now, and what can I be doing right now to like help move that forward. I had a realization, this is kind of morbid, but I'm gonna say it anyway, where like I was like, we have such short lives. We have such short lives, and we have so little time to do so many different things, right? And so like after having that realization, I was like, well, if I were to die tomorrow, what are the things that I would regret? Right? Would I regret like taking a chem class? Would I regret not having gone out for that show? Would I regret not having like said something to that person? And then I said, okay, so if these are the things I would regret if I were gone tomorrow, why am I not doing them today? Right? Why am I not going out for that opportunity? Why I'm not like putting myself up for that challenge? Why am I not like going for that one thing that I feel like I can't do but want to do really badly, right? And so you start to incorporate those into your everyday tasks, and you find that, okay, now I'm living in a reality where everything that I wanted to do, whether I thought that I could do, the things that make me happy, are things that I actively practice every single day. And that makes life worth living, because you've built a life around you where now you have access to all of those things. Now you have that dance class that helps you survive whatever that job is. Maybe your job is actually something that you enjoy because you ran into something that you didn't know existed before, right? So by kind of taking time to assess like what is that perfect for me, and what are ways that I can start doing that today, what are the ways that I can bring that joy to myself today, and incorporating that into your everyday life starting now, like today at Duke, I think that's really, really important.
Well,
That's awesome.
Martavius, Rezilience, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the What's Career Got to Do With It podcast. Let's give our guests a round of applause.
Woo-hoo!